Hey Hector, hey? Do you want to go on the treadmill? Do you want to go on the treadmill, hey? That'd be great, wouldn't it, hey? You can have an hour on the treadmill in the morning. Hey? And you won't get in ditches and have to be bathed, will you, hey? You won't need a bath when you get back. Come on, should we go and have coffee? Hello again YouTube, and welcome from the Pain Cave, which I'm glad to say after the addition of this wonderful piece of kit here is now complete, or complete in the respect that this is how we planned it. One of the reasons that we actually had the garden room built was that we both wanted a treadmill, but the existing Pain Cave that we had in the house, we just didn't have the headroom to put one in there. I think my wife would probably have just about got away with it, but I definitely wouldn't. So that was one of the reasons for building the garden room, and also we've got a lot more space in here. We've got the treadmill, we've got the watt bike, and I've even managed to keep my weights bench in here. And because this lovely Xterra TRX4500 is a folding treadmill, we can still get a little bit of space to do sort of like, you know, some floor work and stuff like that. My wife wants to do yoga and Pilates and stuff like that. And as you can probably see, I need to do some more abs. Anyway, what I thought I'd do today is just give you a quick walk around this Xterra TRX4500. So I'm going to take you through the unboxing. I'm going to give you a quick overview of assembly. Now, I did video that yesterday, but I really messed up on the sound. I just had like a Rode Video Micro on top of the camera there, and the sound was awful, so I'll probably just voice over bits of that and just give you the salient points, because even though it's a really big scary box when you get this thing, the assembly isn't really that bad, but I'd just like to share a couple of insights that I gained whilst I was putting it together. And then I'll talk you through the functionality of it. Now, I'm going to be using this with Zwift Run. So my setup is going to be this Xterra TRX4500. I'm going to be using Zwift Run through the Apple TV, and I'm going to pair my Bluetooth heart rate belt with the Zwift application on the TV. But I'll also be interested to see if this will pair with my Bluetooth heart rate belt. So as you can see, the unit comes relatively flat packed. You've got around the edge here some brackets for something. That will be, yep, that's a power cable. And a scary amount of bolts and stuff there. And of course, the old book of words. So I think it would be wise for me to just plot up with another coffee and the book of words and have a read of those to see how to put this together. I don't think there's a lot of assembly required, to be honest with you. So I'm guessing it's just a case of putting the handles on and the top console. Let's have a look. That's clearly the console in there. Comes pre-built onto a frame. That's pretty good. I can see a fan in there. I'm not sure if that's the cooling fan that everyone says isn't worth having. Right, let's go and have a little read, and then I think I can start putting this together. Even though, like me, you'll probably just want to get into the unboxing, do make sure to read this big yellow label first. The treadmill has a spring-loaded folding action and comes with this long Velcro transit strap in place. If you take this off too early, there's a possibility it will try to fold itself up and smack you in the face in the process. Construction is, as I said, basically a case of just bolting on two uprights, the console section, a stiffener bar and some plastic covers. Now, as you add the uprights, you will need to make sure that you've hooked up the electrical connectors that run to the heart rate pads, the speed and incline controls, and also the main cable between the console and motor assembly. The main control cable is in the right-hand upright, and it helps if you can get somebody to hold the section in place just whilst you plug it in. The uprights are secured with the shorter bolts that you'll find in the packaging, which possibly feels kind of wrong, but isn't. One tip for these hex head bolts: do use the provided spanner. I think you could possibly strip a thread if you applied a bit too much force to any of these bolts, but the provided spanner prevents that because you'd struggle to get any real leverage with it. For everything else, you really will be better off using a decent set of hex wrenches and a quality screwdriver. Now, when you fit the console, it really helps if you can get somebody to hold it for you whilst you hook up the electrical connections and thread the bolts in. It's not particularly heavy, but it really is one of those times when it's definitely better to have an extra pair of hands. With the uprights in and the console fitted, you simply add the support bar, not forgetting the little plastic covers on either side. The final touch is bolting on the plastic covers at the bottom. Now, we found this to be about the hardest part of the build. The screws are really deeply recessed, so you'll need a long screwdriver. And we also found that one of the threads was clogged. I think there was possibly just some paint in there or something. I tapped it out using an M5.08 tap and tied it up the threads on the bolt with a corresponding die. Not a showstopper, but it could have been an issue if I didn't have the tools on hand to clean the thread up. So when we went looking for a treadmill, I think top of the shopping list for me was it had to be able to handle a lump like me. So I wanted something that had a half decent max user weight on it. And the Xterra TRX4500, like its little brother, the TRX3500, they will both cope with a lump up to 159 kilos. So that's, I'm glad to say I'm nowhere near that. So it's more than robust for me. One thing that I do like about it though is the width of the running bed. I mean, it doesn't feel constrained at all. And one of the things I really like about this is it feels robust. It actually feels gym quality. So this doesn't feel a world away from the treadmills we used to use at our local gym. So let me just talk about this head unit, this console here, and what goes on here. You can, if you want to, plug in an MP3 player there. It has built-in speakers. Obviously that's going to be no use to somebody who's got one of the later iPhones, and I'm not entirely sure that you can pair this via Bluetooth, but that's, to be honest with you, that's no big issue. As you can see, you've got some quick access buttons for incline here and speed there, so you can just sort of like hit all of your inclines up to 15% and all of your speeds up to 12 kilometers an hour, I think that is, quite easily. You've got these adjustable buttons down here as well, so you can adjust them from here. And you've also got buttons on the hand grips that the buttons on the right control the speed and the buttons on the left control the incline. So a nice range of options for controlling it. Now it does have a built-in fan, which I'll switch on, which I don't know why they bothered, if I'm honest. That's about the only thing that I found on it that I thought, really? Because what you've got in there, you've got a little PC cooling fan. In fact, my video editing rig has got bigger fans than that. And even with my hand that close to the fan, it's doing nothing. So yeah, I wouldn't really bother with that. You've also got a range of programs you can go into. So these are the, if you've used a treadmill at the gym, you'll be familiar with these. These are kind of the interval programs and ramp programs. And you just scroll through them with the program button there. And then when you're ready to go, the good old start stop button. Of course, it does come with the required safety lanyard. So again, if you've used a treadmill at the gym, this is the thing that's always tucked in the cup holder over there. So that, yeah, it does come with the required safety lanyard, so you can put that on your belt. And if you were to fly off the back of the thing, in theory, it should stop. A couple of really nice cup holders, bottle holders either side, which, as you can see, will probably become more remote control storage for me, even though you also have this little rubberized channel here that you can put a phone or a tablet into. Now, if you're going to be using it with Zwift, I would suggest you'll probably have a tablet or a phone in there, because you'll probably want to use the Zwift Companion. So in summary, just from the flight deck, as it were, you know, just standing here looking at the controls, the layout and the feel of it, it definitely feels like a quality piece of kit. So yeah, this has been a real opportunity for me, because I love Zwift. And, you know, I've always said to myself, if the run experience is anything as good as the bike, this will be good. One of the concerns I had was whether Zwift would pair easily with this treadmill. And I have to say that the experience was absolutely fantastic. I fired up the treadmill, I fired up Zwift Run, and right from the outset, right from the pairing screen, it came up with speed sensor, Xterra TRX4500, paired that up with Zwift, and immediately on the display here, the treadmill is telling me it's being controlled by BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, which is kind of the protocol that I believe Zwift uses to communicate with smart trainers and smart bikes. If you're using Apple TV, like I am, you will run up against that usual challenge of Bluetooth inputs. If you want to use the treadmill to track your speed, a heart rate strap, and a cadence sensor, that would be, if you have all of those on Bluetooth, that's a total of 3 inputs. And as we all know, Apple TV, even the new version I've got the 2021 version, and it still only accepts a maximum of 2 Bluetooth inputs. There is, however, a way around this for Garmin users. If you have a compatible Garmin watch, I've got the Forerunner 745 here. I think this would also apply to the Forerunner 245, 945, anything kind of from there onwards. You can add the Virtual Run activity to your list of activities. Now, what Virtual Run does is it will pair with any external sensors. So, for example, you can pair an Ant Plus heart rate strap with your watch, and then your watch will transmit cadence, heart rate, you know, whatever it's paired with. It will transmit that across one Bluetooth connection to the Apple TV. So let me show you that. Okay, so I've added Virtual Run in on my watch here. So I'll go to Virtual Run, open Zwift. Okay, so for running speed, I want to leave the TRX4500 set, but if I go to heart rate, I'm going to pair the Forerunner 745, and cadence, again, Forerunner 745. So there you've got it, Virtual Run on your compatible Garmin watch, allowing you to connect all of your sensors, basically. Good. So this afternoon I'm going to have my first run on it, and I've got to give it to Zwift. It's almost like they read my mind. Running is probably one of the disciplines that I find hardest, and consequently it's one of the ones that I kind of shy away from because of that. And so I'd said to myself, I really need to build a plan to ease myself back into this. But as you can see here, when you go into Zwift Run for the first time, it actually gives you kind of a running 101. So it comes up with a range of plans that you can use to get yourself into a running plan with Zwift. And I've chosen the nice and steady one, you know, just because that's where I am. My run has never been fast, and now it's almost catastrophically bad. So, you know, I'm considering myself starting from the beginning again. So yeah, I'm going to be trying the first of those programs this afternoon to see how we go. So I think the first learning point for me is that Zwift does not actually control the speed or incline of the trainer. And that makes sense because with the bike, controlling resistance is a purely passive control. But I would say that when you're on a treadmill, you need to be in full control of the speed and incline. Otherwise you could end up injuring yourself if, for example, the belt speed suddenly ramped up and you weren't expecting it. Even though it's leaving the speed and incline up to you, I do have to say that I found it every bit as immersive as the bike version. You can choose to run on any of the usual Zwift routes, but as you can see here, there are some that are designated specifically for running, and those tend to be shorter than the bike routes. I've got to say that I do like the little prompts that Zwift gives you when you're doing a workout or when you're doing something new. I suppose they're not for everybody, and I suppose that to some degree you could find them patronising, but I quite like them. So having said that I'm very happy with the trainer, is there anything that I think could be improved? Yes, I think there are. I mean, I would certainly like to be able to pair a Bluetooth heart rate belt with it. It's got Bluetooth on board, so I can't see why it can't use the Bluetooth connectivity for a belt. And while we're talking about it, connecting an audio device to it, if there's Bluetooth on board, why can't it connect with Bluetooth for use with the internal speakers? Or even, given the world that we live in where these little 3.5 jacks are almost non-existent on phones these days, why isn't there a USB port? But I guess these are just minor niggles. And what really matters with this is that it's robust, well made, nice big running area on it, and it feels like it's going to last. Plus, it does the important connectivity, which for me was Zwift. Thanks for watching this one, YouTube. I'll catch you in the next.